Hello, podcast listeners. Happy Friday. I'm coming at you with an episode of a new series of episodes on Fridays that'll be called Reflection Fridays, where I'll kind of think about the week and kind of think about the different activities I do and their broader implications. And today we have our first guest, a guy I live with who has some pretty interesting interests and pretty interesting lifestyle and interesting things that he does. His name is Jolson. We also call him Jolson. His first name is Josiah. Goes by Josiah Olson, Jolson, or Joe Olson. He has plenty of names, but definitely clear identity. So, hello, Joe. It's nice to have you today.
Hey, it's good to be here. Yeah.
Cool. So, one of Joe's interests that I find extremely fascinating is rock climbing. And for me, like, I've tried it a few times with him, and it's super difficult and super tasking and challenging and oddly mentally stimulating, I find, when I was participating in the activity, as well as just physically demanding. And Joe has some pretty interesting experiences with that, so I'd like to kind of have him talk through those experiences, and then I can follow up on kind of his interest and kind of the way he got interested and how that's gotten him to where he is today, and then I can follow up on it. So, Joe, kind of, could you talk to us about kind of the different experiences you've had with rock climbing, so like where the interest started and how it's kind of developed to where it is today?
Yeah, so I got interested. I don't actually know how it all got started. I just knew once I transferred here from my community college that I wanted to join the rock climbing club.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even sure if we had one. But yeah, I went to UREC, the gym here, and we have a climbing wall in there. And I just started going like 3-4 days a week, which is not actually a good idea if you're starting out right away, because that can lead to like tendinitis and stuff, which I now have. But it's gotten better. But yeah, so the interest started off, I don't know, it just seemed really natural for me. I've always liked climbing, mostly trees though. So yeah, it just kind of gradually got, I've just gotten more interested in it as time's progressed, and different aspects of climbing, different styles. At first I was really intimidated by sloper type holds, which are pretty smooth, and it takes a lot of technique to do those. But recently I've been trying to practice more slopers, which are pretty fun, but difficult.
Yeah. So do you find that when you're doing it and when you're doing rock climbing and each time you find something that's even more challenging, that's kind of sets up something that you want to accomplish? So like, oh, this week I want to do this sloper or this path of the rock climbing wall or whatever they have set up that you think is like a really good objective for you. It kind of like matches the challenge with your skill.
Yeah, definitely. I think different routes at different difficulties will take different amounts of time for me to get, and even once I've gotten the route, I'll try different routes in different ways. The people call like the correct way for climbing a route, they call it beta, and so I try not to get other people's influence right away, just so that I see how I climb it first. And like one of the routes, it's one of my favorite ones to climb. The way I climb it is way different than everyone else climbs it, because I've never actually seen anyone else climb it before yesterday, actually. So yeah, I think it really depends on the route, but yeah, just about every week I try to find like a new route or something like that I can practice with and just play around with different ways. I kind of view it as like sort of like an art type deal where it's kind of like a canvas and you get to paint the way that you climb the wall. So yeah, I think that's really interesting about it.
Yeah, that's super cool. I found that too when I went with you the first few times, that you really find that matching level of challenge and skill that really gives its benefits and makes it enjoyable. So yeah, that's for me doing rock climbing with you and kind of seeing how you did it, and then kind of forming my own way to do it a little bit was definitely an interesting personal experience, and kind of brought me to some interesting like feelings and like sense experiences, as well as like physical like challenge and physical task that you can't really compare or kind of create a similar experience apart from that. So what I think would be cool is if you could kind of explain a little bit about the way rock climbing makes you feel, and kind of when you're going through those challenging activities, and kind of at the end of rock climbing, like when you finish a session, or when you finish a difficult route that you do, or when you finally master something, kind of the feelings that it gives you, and then how those affects kind of affect your life.
Yeah, so I think it's healthy to try to find things that better you and that give you a sort of drive to do more and to do better. And so I really found that with rock climbing. So whenever there's a route or something that's difficult, I'll just practice it, or practice different sections of that route, and then I'll come back fresh with like a fresh mindset, and my body's fresh, and I'll give it another go, and I'll just do that until I get it. Yeah, and sometimes like the route setters, they will switch it up before I even finish it, which isn't the nicest thing, but yeah, I don't know. I can apply that to my life. Like, I'm always trying to do better in certain areas, and even if I don't complete it or something like that, I know that I've given my best to it. So it's not something that I view as like negative. Like when I can't finish a route, I don't view it as negative because I tried up to that point. I tried my best, and there will always be other routes, and other routes I can climb differently and stuff. So yeah, it gives me, I don't know, there's like a sort of type of pride aspect of it. I wouldn't really say in a negative way. Like when I climb, I'm proud of climbing, and I like telling people about it too, because it gives me enjoyment, and I think it's a pretty, well, depending on how you climb, like there's a lot of habits that can hurt you when you're climbing, but knowing more information about how to climb, and the healthier ways to climb, and the safer ways, can really broaden all the different routes and different things that you can climb. But yeah, I would say that it's affected my life in just like ways of just like having this drive to finish things, even if you can't see like the top or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely sounds like it's something that provides you with like an extra level of well-being, and like an extra level of like completeness and wholeness, and kind of happiness too. It seems like it's an activity that you can engage in where at the end, like no matter the result, no matter if it was like a good day or like a day where you struggled particularly more, or like were challenged particularly more, and you weren't able to succeed as much in certain routes as compared to maybe other days, you still can probably come out of it with positive affect, and kind of feeling really good about that experience, feeling like, oh, I got into like a flow experience, or I was able to, you know, really enjoy this, or like really physically challenge myself, whether positive or not as positive outcome, you were still able to really come out of it with a good experience. It sounds like it's like something that's really good for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like there's always new things that I'm trying with it. Like I'm trying top roping more, and I'm trying to get into lead climbing, which are pretty difficult, especially since I'm more of a boulderer, which is more of like strength. But yeah, it just depends on the type of deal, but it's very influential in my life.
Yeah, that's super cool. I find that I have similar So yeah, I definitely think that I've had similar experiences with that, and I think even the couple times where I was rock climbing and I felt like my skill level, which was very basic, and I was able to find different ways to match the level of challenge and the level of difficulty to that, to the point where I was able to really like enjoy it and optimally challenge myself and to get the most out of the experience. But for me, like when I learned that you did that and that you've been doing it for a long time and that it's something that you get a lot of enjoyment out of, I thought it was like super cool. And it seems like something that's like really nice for you, especially like as a release from, you know, outside of studying and outside of, you know, pursuing your career goals. It provides something that's one, physically demanding, and provides you with well-being in a lot of different areas, which is definitely beneficial, and I'm sure you've seen the effects of that. So
Yeah, definitely. There's like there are also so mentally it's difficult because like you won't get something and then you'll want to be like, oh man, I'm such a bad climber or something like this, and I don't know, you just gotta keep on going at it, because it's definitely one of those things where like just about anyone can do it. It's just how determined you are and how much practice you put into it. But yeah, I've definitely seen like I tell people about it because, or just like how much I love it, because it does give me that sort of break from studying and stuff like that. Well, I do like I don't know, the challenges that come along with school and academia. When I accomplish something in that, it is rewarding, but when I accomplish something in rock climbing, like a route, it's physically rewarding, and also it's still mentally rewarding, because there are some things where like you have to place your body in a certain way, and at first you have to think about it a lot just because you're not used to those sort of movements, but then afterwards it sort of gets into like a second nature type deal. And yeah, so that's it. I would say it's definitely rewarding both physically and mentally, because it does give you that break from whatever it is, just school-wise or career-wise, just stresses of like everyday living, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it sounds like an activity that's very comparable to life too. And from what I experienced, I was like, oh, this is really like meta, in which like you're participating in this activity where you have to go up and face a challenge and work really hard in order to overcome it, and kind of have to change strategies oftentimes in order to reach the goal that you want to achieve, and kind of change pathways too. And life seems to be like that too. And I don't know if you've ever kind of dove into that extremely kind of deep thought about rock climbing, but it definitely seems like it's something that's very reflective of life, as well as kind of individually reflective, and probably could be kind of applied to your outside activities.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that I know we've talked about, and I think both of us agree with, is that like just difficulties in general, I don't think that there are things that people can overcome. I think it's part of like determination and how willing you are to give up things for achieving whatever that is. And so yeah, there's definitely ways that is relatable with climbing, and then how I can apply that to my life. And
yeah, I think that's super cool. And that's what I really like too. And you know, seeing the value in different activities is always super awesome, and then reflecting on that in order to kind of get value and apply it in different areas of life to live better and to achieve more and find more success and better well-being. And it seems like you've been able to find that, so that's super cool. And thanks for being on. I thought this was super successful and super fun. This was a fun, reflective Friday.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I find that reflecting is often like really cool, and you can come to thoughts and understandings that maybe you didn't have before. And I think we did that here today. So thanks for coming on, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll be at you guys, I don't know, maybe Monday. Maybe I'll come back at everyone this weekend. But hope you had a good Friday, and have a great weekend, guys. Thanks.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.